Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us for today at this international webinar organized by South Asia Research Institute for Minorities. I am Zehra, your host for this enlightening session, and I'm honored to guide you through our discussion today. Our webinar today is titled From Discrimination to Inclusion, UN's Role in Promoting Interfaith and Caste Harmony. We have an amazing panel of speakers from different part of worlds who will share their insights and experiences on this crucial topic. Before we begin, let me express our gratitude to the United Nations for its efforts in promoting inclusivity, harmony, and the wipe out of discrimination. The UN nations play a vital role in forecasting unity, and today we are aimed to highlight some of the remarkable work they do in this regards. It's my pleasure to introduce our amazing panel of speakers today, Beena Pallical, my guest, Dr. Lenin Raghuvanshi, and Prem Pariyar. Each of the speakers bring wealth of knowledge and experiences in their respected field, and we are excited to hear their insights on promoting interfaith and caste harmony and the UN's role in achieving this objective. So, as you all know, discrimination based on caste, faith, and ethnicity is an endurable challenge in many parts of the world. The United Nations has been a beacon of hope and inspired to address these issues and promoting inclusivity. Today, we gather to discuss their efforts and invaluable work being done by the organizations and individuals worldwide to combat discrimination and forecasting interfaith and caste harmony. Without further ado, let me begin with the first speaker, Beena Pallical, Director of Economical and Educational Rights at the National Campaign of Dalit Human Rights, NCDHR, in India. She will discuss the challenges and opportunities in promoting caste harmony in India and the role of United Nations. Ms. Beena, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. And it's great to share the stage with Lenin and I think Prem. I don't see Prem, but it's great to share the panel with them. I'm sure that with the wealth of information that they will bring onto the table as well. So very interesting topic on the role of UN. But before I go to the UN, a little bit about what the National Campaign on Dalit Human Rights, the organization that I represent within India, is all about. The NCDHR mostly works on issues of access to justice, gender justice, climate change, disaster risk reduction, economic rights, and how to access public entitlements. I think about 25 to 26 years ago, everybody was working in silos. You know, there were a lot of human rights activists in southern India, northern India, east, west, trying to work, in their own states. But then in 1998, we decided that we want to have a platform at the national level. And these several smaller organizations and leaders and activists came together, academics came together and formed the National Campaign, a rights-based organization that looks at how we can strengthen the policy, and many times I say this, that we work with the government, but also challenge the government. So on both sides, we are not saying that, we are against the for implementation of their policies. So how do we as an organization, try to balance that working with the government and, and also challenging the government at the same time for the poor implementation of policies. So, and we're one of the few organizations that in 2001, when the Durban conference, so just to say that, till 1998, a lot of work and a lot of mass atrocities took place in India, where there was Chundur and a lot of other. If you go through history, you can see that there are a lot of mass massacres that took place on Dalits, on Dalit habitations. And that's how the national campaign came, with the sole purpose of building visibility and holding the state accountable. Holding the state accountable was two of the prime reasons that we started this campaign. But in 2001, there was the Durban Conference on Racism and Xenophobia. It's the first time that the National Campaign on Dalit Human Rights with other organizations came together and mobilized about 200 to 300 Dalit activists to go from India and also from the region. For the first time, people were shocked that, about 200 to 300 Dalit activists going to Durban in South Africa and taking this issue, much against the, at that time, the government, much against a lot of people saying, why do you want to take this issue to the international level? It's an Indian issue, let's, face it, or it's the region issue, because all of our countries we are represented here have that issue and continue to face that issue. But then the activists at that time were very strong, saying that no, we have to somehow bring this to the global platform. And that was the first time that this issue of Dalit rights was actually brought out at the Durban conference. And of course, if you read history, Baba Sahib also, with W. Bois and then others, tried to intervene at the UN and also took this issue. There are letters that he has written. So there was some unfinished agenda at that time that was taken up in 2001 when we went to Durban. And then onwards, and at that time this issue was contested highly, because there was a difference between whether we should look caste as part of race, or is it a different subject altogether? And how do we? So while there are a lot of similarities in terms of the manifestations of it, hatred, oppression, etc., but there are two distinct forms of identities, race versus caste, and that was one of the that was a very highly debatable subject at that time, and caste and race, and how we can come together on several levels, but they're two distinct forms of identities. At that time, many people agreed to it, and then since then, NCDHR, and now I'm also part of the Asia Dalit Rights Forum, which is a regional forum, has been intervening at the UN. And I think NCDHR is one of the organizations that has sort of linking the whole chain from subnational, national, regional to the UN, to the global. Many people ask, why do you want to go to the UN? If you look at the indigenous people's struggle and how they have struggled to get, a declaration and then move at the UN. Similarly, I think we are also trying to see how we can get either a convention, declaration, resolution at the UN. So in some way, trying to see that this whole chain of advocacy from subnational to global, is something that we are looking at. But there has been slight changes in the terminology that we use, as we use Dalits within India mostly. Many countries have different forms. Like in Bangladesh, they still use the word Harijan. We don't use that in India. Or scheduled castes, which is the official term that is by the government. So the terminologies have been changed. There was a report that was then commissioned by the UN after post-Durban, where they came up with this term at the UN, which is people discriminated on work and descent. And so under this comes all the people who are discriminated because of the work that we do and because of the descent, where we're coming from, because we're born, nobody changes. We cannot change our caste. Tomorrow, if I think that I want to change my caste, it goes with me, right, as a Dalit woman. So that distinction of caste and descent and where we're coming from are the two terms. It's not a very beautiful term, so to speak, because when we are saying it, it's like community is discriminated on work and descent. It's a long term, but still there was some significance given to these communities coming from this. And under this term is where we tend to um, tend to bring in the whole idea of, forming bringing these discriminated communities under this terminology of communities discriminated on work and dissent. And since 2019, we have formed the Global Forum of Communities Discriminated on Work and Dissent, where the strategy is slightly changed in terms of not just Dalits intervening at the UN, but also bringing in other communities who are affected by slavery in Africa, who are affected by other forms of dissent, like Roma community in Europe, Quilombola in Brazil. Like that, different communities have come together under this global, looking for either a resolution, declaration, and at the UN. Having said that, I think the critical work that we do in country is also extremely significant to provide that kind of evidence, to give it to the UN and say, look here, this is what is happening. Many of our organizations who are represented here and who might be also listening are creating these research and evidence to be able to tell globally to UN agencies that, this is still happening in this century. We're still facing discrimination. We're still not allowed to access, we're still not even allowed to access basic water. For example, even water, for example, a 9-year-old child was killed last, I think about 6 or 7 months, or maybe a year ago, because he took water from his teacher's pot, and he was beaten to death. So we're still facing those forms of oppression that shouldn't be happening in today's India or today in this region. And so we're trying to say that, so the in-country work is extremely important, but we have to recognize that the role of the work that we do in-country runs parallel to what we're doing at the UN. So we are not saying that we go to the UN instead of the work that we do in country. Many people say that, why do you go to the UN? The UN is a body that will enable us to ask for much more accountability from the global to the national, because for example, India is signatory to the Sustainable Development Goals. Many of our countries in this region are signatory. So they have to adhere to some of these principles laid down by these conventions and declarations, and hoping that the issue of caste and the issue of communities discriminated on work and dissent can be taken up by countries because of the pressure that is put and because of some of these policies that are at the UN, and in turn will put pressure. So UN has a very big role to play in such that, to ensure that they work for enabling an enabling environment for communities like ours to be able to access rights, to have the full, if we were the Universal Declaration of Human Rights has to be for everyone, not just for some elitist persons, but including Dalits as well. And that is our demand, and that will continue to be our demand till we're able to access our full menu of rights. Thank you, JB.
Thank you, Ms. Beena, for your enlightening speech and insights. I value it. And now we move to our second speaker. We have Dr. Lenin Raghuvanshi, founder and CEO of the People's Vigilance Committee on Human Rights in India, who will talk about the work on promoting inclusivity in India and the world. Dr. Lenin, please go ahead.
Thank you. And most important thing Beena already described. I want to highlight something, because the inception of the NCDHR is so important. Because it is true, people are fighting on the many issues in part of the India, but the most important thing in CDHR is our organizations to bring all together, and led by the Dalit people, which is the most important thing, and also giving this space to those progressive people who are fighting against caste system and the slavery. So in this way, it is very inclusive, and also they are very much instrumentals to create the ISDN, International Solidarity Dalit Networks also. And that came after the very important book, reports written by Human Rights Watch. This is the Broken People, where I'm the part of that. because the PVCHR is fighting entirely different because, Kailash Satyarthi, who received the Nobel Peace Prize. And we rescued a lot of bonded labor and bonded child labor. Also, we rescued a lot of forced women in the forced prostitution. And what we found, not a single bonded labor and bonded child labor and the women in the forced prostitutions belongs to the upper caste community. So, but this type of movements never promoting the issues of human rights. So, thanks to the ISDN, NCDHR, and nowadays is a global networks created by NCDHR. They are working on that. Most important issue in the 2001, when the Durban conference came and this activists, 200, 300 activists mobilized by the NCDHR went to the Durban in South Africa. And the government of India and the elites of our country, especially the upper caste people, they talk about that caste is not a race issue. But people like us who born in Varanasi and studied in Gurukul, and we know that the component because Ma Parvati make a very long prayers to convert her color from black to white. And so it means the color has the importance. And also in the Hindi, my phrase, in ki गोरे चमार पे और काले ब्राह्मण पे भरोसा मत करो. Means what they are talking about the race and the color. Don't believe on the whites chamar, means Dalit people, and the black Brahmins. It means Brahmins belongs to the white and the Dalits belongs to the black. And this is also the issue of the race. So we gave a slogan, every south of the India, every south of the Indian village is South Africa, because you know that, and we brought many phrases from the Manusmriti and all about that, and if you look in 2003, 2004 in the UN system, especially the individual mandate UN report here on the human rights defenders and also the discrimination based on the race and all. We brought a lot of cases that time. And also we intervened with the UPR, the Universal Periodic Review. We brought two reports where we highlighted the caste issues and India gave the commitment. But the most important thing, in 2016, we highlighted in the UPR and which is on the UN reports, we told, look what happened, the caste system and patriarchal systems, the whole hegemonic masculinity, that has a concept of the culture of impunity and silence, culture of silence with the impunity. And the neoliberal economic policy also want culture of silence with the impunity for creating more profits and the greed, for their greeds. And for that reason, the remnants of the caste system and patriarchy also organize themselves in the form of a religious fanatic understanding. And the second way, also they make a marriage and the alliance with the neoliberal policies, and they create a corporate fascism in this country. And we brought this concept in 2016, and we alert to the globe, please to be careful, because we are highlighting, you look in the South Asia, it is also important in the second phrase of the Pake Quran, talk about the ilm, education. But the people, especially the patriarchal people believe in the hegemonic masculinity. They did not allow in the Swat valleys for the right to education and to the girls, and which is the contradictory in the whole teaching in the Pake Quran. So this is also important we highlight on the global level, and need to understand caste issue is linked with the racism. Still India government is opposing in this search. But it is the link, and they also understand why in the London and the UK, in the many restaurants they wrote once upon a time when the Nehru wanted to oppose and Gandhi wanted to oppose, Indians, blacks, and dogs are not allowed. So it is also important to understand to this link. So it is totally not only the work-based discrimination, it is a system which is more dangerous than racism. Baba Sahab, more dangerous than slavery, because Baba Sahab described about that. It is entirely different, and it is the 2000, more than 2000-year-old system. So we need to fight back, and thanks to the all organization who is fighting, and it is very old fight, because Baba Sahab told that when Baba Sahab converted as a Buddhist and created the 22 oaths, and he told, because in India, also Brahmin created both things, because that time is no developed Varna system and the caste system. So everybody is like living in the jungles. And they, in the Purushuk, they talk about the Brahminical system, and also the Lokayat opposed it. So Nyaya philosophy, Sang philosophy, last teaching of Shankaracharya, and also Krishnati, Islam, and the whole saint movement of the Kabir, Sant Raidas, and Saint Nai, and also the Sikhism, Jainism, and Buddhism. That is the Shraman culture. Shraman culture is a culture of inclusiveness, the culture of diversity. Also, in our tradition, there is a big contradictions and fight between Mahadev and the Dutch Prajapati. So that is also important. India government want to put these issues lower to carpet. We need to be diagnosed openly, and we need to treat that. That is not a big problem. We did the mistakes like we through the caste system, and also it is important. And I will appeal to the especially the progressive people who want to real different South Asia and the different nation state really based on the Indian Constitution and spirit of the Indian Constitution and preamble of the Indian Constitution. They need to be support this movement against caste system, promote the whole culture of inclusiveness and the diversity, and they need to be give to the representations and the leaders to the Dalits and Dalit man and women and Dalit human beings, and also the indigenous people. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lenin, for your thought-provoking talk. Finally, we have Prem Pariyar, Delegate for the National Association of Social Worker and Human Rights Relation Commissioner in the United States.
Thank you. Thank you, South Asia Research Institute for Minorities, for having me in this important international webinar. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy, joining these conversations. So today I stand before you to share my thoughts on this important topic. The topic is very important. From discrimination to inclusion, the UN's role in promoting interfaith and caste harmony. Discrimination based on religion and caste has plagued societies for centuries, leading to division, inequality, and injustices. It is the responsibility of global institutions like the United Nations to take a proactive role in eradicating such discrimination and fostering harmony. The United Nations, established in the aftermath of World War II, was founded on equality, human rights, and promoting peace. Its mission extends far beyond geographical boundaries, not limited to a specific country or region, but more than that. It includes protecting every individual's rights, regardless of their background. One of the most profound aspects of the UN's work is its commitment to fostering interfaith and caste harmony. Interfaith harmony is essential in a world marked by diverse religious beliefs. The UN is pivotal in promoting dialogues, understanding, and cooperation among different religious groups. Through initiatives like the Alliance of Civilizations and Interfaith Harmony, the UN encourages people of all faiths to come together to address common challenges, learn from one another, and promote tolerance. Efforts are very, very crucial to prevent religious conflicts, war, and violence that have damaged our society, our history. So let me talk about uh, caste-based discrimination. So all of you know that. So being a caste-oppressed community members, I have experienced caste discrimination from my childhood till now. I'm experiencing discrimination even in diaspora. Caste-based discrimination is another deeply rooted issue in many societies, particularly South Asia. And now it is not limited to South Asia. This has become a global issue. We all know South Asian community is one of the fastest growing community in the diaspora. As I think Dr. Ambedkar has said that where South Asians go, they bring caste. And this is the truth. Now many people, many diaspora communities, they are experiencing caste discrimination. Not only in the US. If you go to the Australia, there are also like people. My community in Australia, they are experiencing caste discrimination. If you go to UK, there is the same problem. If you go to Europe, same problem. The UN should clearly distinguish between race and caste and formulate policies to address and end this systemic oppression effectively. I think there is some non-South Asian community, they have like some confusion about race and caste. And the UN needs to be more clear. The UN should have clarity. So caste is often viewed as a global equivalent to race. While they appear similar, they are distinct concepts. Millions of people around the world grappled with caste-based violence. The UN, through its various agencies, should emphasize the elimination of caste-based discrimination, addressing the profound inequalities that exist. This includes advocating for affirmative actions, access to education, and equal rights for marginalized communities. The UN also calls upon member states to enforce anti-discrimination laws, and caste is missing there. As you know, we have been advocating in the US to aid caste as the protected category in the anti-discrimination laws, in anti-discrimination policy, and protect the rights of those vulnerable to caste-based discrimination. While the UN plays a critical role in these initiatives, true progress requires collaboration on a global scale. This is not only the issues for caste-oppressed community. This is not only the issues for religious minority community. All the member states, civil society organizations, and individuals, the privileged individuals, must work together to eradicate discrimination, all forms of discrimination, including caste-based discrimination, including discrimination based on religious faith, and promote inclusion. We talk a lot about inclusion. We talk a lot about inclusive society. But in reality, so everybody knows the reality, right? So educational institutions can play a significant role by promoting diversity and teaching the values of tolerance and understanding. Grassroots movements and advocacy groups are essential in raising awareness about discrimination and pressuring governments to take actions. In conclusion, what I want to say that the United Nations role is in promoting interfaith and caste harmony is significant in our quest for a more inclusive, just, tolerant, and equitable world. This is possible, right? Discrimination based on religion or caste is a stain on the conscience of humanity. It is our collective responsibility to eradicate it by recognizing the dignity and rights of every individual, regardless of their background. We can move from a world damaged by discrimination to one marked by a true inclusion and harmony. True inclusion. I'm talking about true inclusion and harmony. Let us all commit to this noble cause. No more disinformations. No more misinformations. No more propaganda. This is the time to work hand in hand with the United Nations, with the grassroots organizations, and the marginalized community and other partners to create a brighter and more inclusive future for all. This is the opportunity to become a good ancestors. This is the very, very nice, good opportunity for all of us. Let's not misuse this opportunity. Let's work together. Nothing is impossible and nothing is useless. Even a broken watch shows the correct time twice a day. And it is possible. We can create peace and harmony in this beautiful world. And that is possible by you and myself. We all can work together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We had an excellent set of presentation. So now it's time to invite Rimsha Shahid for the concluding remarks. She is a research analyst at SARIM, South Asia Research Institute for Minorities. So I would like to share the screen with her. Over to you, Rimsha.
Yes, thank you, Zehra, for inviting me. And as we draw to this webinar to a close, we reflect on the pressing issue of discrimination based on religion and caste, and the vital role of United Nations plays in promoting interfaith and caste harmony. We have embarked on a journey today, one that sheds light on the deep-seated problems of discrimination, social injustice, and human rights violation that persist in many corners of the world. The United Nations has actively engaged in confronting these issues through conventions, agencies, and programs designed to foster equality and combat discrimination on a global scale. However, our collective task is far from complete. The imperative to maintain international peace and security, to promote cooperation and advance human rights remains as crucial as ever. This webinar underscores the significance of collaborative efforts in the ongoing struggle to eliminate discrimination, promote human rights, and create a world where equity and inclusivity are extended to all, regardless of their religious beliefs or caste identities, for sure. So, moving ahead towards our speakers, our first speaker, Ms. Beena Pallical, provided a brief overview of the National Campaign on Dalit Human Rights, also known as NCDHR. and discussed the importance of advocating for human rights by collaborating with the government and challenging the existing systems as well, which is obviously a challenging task to do. She highlighted the NCDHR's role as a connecting link between subnational, national, regional, and international levels, using the platform of the UN to address the pressing issues of Dalit human rights. Ms. Pallical also acknowledged the proactive steps taken by communities that face discrimination based on work and descent. She emphasized the NCDHR's role in providing authentic evidence to the UN, demonstrating that discrimination still exists in various regions of South Asian region specifically. This factual evidence is instrumental in securing the justified rights of marginalized communities. She also stressed the critical role of the UN as a platform that can enable marginalized communities to voice their concerns and seek equal rights, providing a more inclusive and comfortable environment for addressing these issues. Moving ahead towards our second speaker, Dr. Lenin Raghuvanshi, who acknowledged the commendable efforts of Ms. Beena and the NCDHR in addressing the issue of bonded labor. He emphasized that episodes of bonded labor and forced child labor are not limited to a specific caste and that are basically limited to a specific caste, and that this pervasive problem transcends geographical boundaries. He also noted that the Universal Periodic Review, which is UPR reports, had shed light on caste-related issues, highlighting their significance. He also underscored the role of a hegemonic mindset in perpetuating the caste system and patriarchal structure. Concurrently, he pointed out how neoliberal policies have introduced profit making at the expense of exploiting lower caste individuals. In last, he called upon international platforms to support initiatives aimed at promoting equality and justice, underscoring the importance of addressing these deeply rooted issues on a global scale. And last, Mr. Prem Pariyar presented his views, who emphasized the UN's crucial responsibility in eradicating discrimination and promoting harmony worldwide. He highlighted the UN's pivotal role in fostering interfaith and caste harmony, citing initiatives like the Alliance of Civilizations and Interfaith Harmony. Mr. Pariyar also pointed out the global spread of caste-based discrimination affecting South Asian diaspora communities in the US, Australia, the UK, and Europe as well. He urged the UN to distinguish between race and caste and develop effective policies to address caste discrimination within its operations. Mr. Pariyar's speech aligns well with the webinar's theme of the UN's role in combating discrimination and creating a more inclusive world. So, we hope that today's discussion and insights have served as a catalyst for renewed commitment and action as well. Let us remember that it is not enough to merely acknowledge these issues. Whether we should look around our shared responsibility to act upon this knowledge, to champion equality, to break down the barriers of discrimination, and to build bridges that unite rather than divide. In the words of former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, we may have different religions, different languages, different colored skin, but we all belong to one human race. So it is with this profound sentiment in mind that we conclude this webinar with the hope that we can all contribute to a future where interfaith and caste harmony prevail, and where the principles of the UN guide us toward a more equitable and inclusive world for every individual. Thank you for your participation, your commitment, and your dedication to the cause of a brighter and more harmonious future. Over to you, Zehra.
Thank you, Rimsha, for defining it so well. As we near to the end this webinar, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to the speakers and the audience for their active participations. It's evident that progress toward interfaith and caste harmony is possible with mutual efforts, and the UN plays a vital role in these things. Let us leave the virtual gathering today with renewed determined work towards a world where discrimination is replaced by the inclusion and harmony. Together, we can make a difference. Thank you for being a part of this international webinar. I wish you all a wonderful day. Thank you so much.